Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
Do you really believe that you can't make a difference in the world? What if you could bend spoons with your mind? Would that make a difference? Hello, this is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith. And joining me in this episode is Miché Meizner, spiritual mentor, healer, and coach. Miché will be talking about mindful thinking and spoon bending and the superpower of self-love. How does your state of mind and self-talk influence you and your reality? And how does it define what is possible? What shapes your world? Miché Meizner is a healer, mentor, speaker, and coach on self-love and soul connection for women who are passionate about their spiritual growth. Her mission is to activate and awaken people to their own divine nature in order to navigate everyday life from a higher conscious perspective. She's right in line of what we like to talk about here. How do you be your best self possible? Miché's motto is stand up, stand out, and be the gift you're here to meant. You came, be the gift you came here. I can say this. You came here to be. And I want to start the show by saying to everyone, if you have an Apple phone or if you, she has a brand new app out. It's live now in the Apple store right now. It's called Everything is Energy. It's free. It's got some really cool free stuff in it. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but welcome to the show, Miché. So glad you were on a year and a half ago or something like that, but we're so glad to have you back. I'm so glad to have you back. I don't know who this weed person is, but
yeah. And Miché. It's Miché.
Miché.
Yeah. My mom was still struggling with pronouncing it correctly. So, no harm, no foul on that.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Well,
anyway, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me back.
So welcome. You've been through a lot since we've talked, a whole lot. You're, I think, probably one of the more braver people in the world. That we were just. It's been a while since we talked, but before we were talking about the forest fire, and we were talking about you rebuilding your home, and then you brought your mom to your new home, and then some amazing stories about your mom. Tell whatever you feel like.
Yeah, sure. Saying. Yeah, so I actually moved my mom from Florida to our home in Oregon in October, and she did just pass a month ago. But I have to say, we all were hoping that she was going to be with us longer, or that she was planning the garden and planning photo shoots with her caregivers, dogs and horses and whatever. So she was right in there, but congestive heart failure, had its way with her. But still, I have to say, even in those short months, like mission accomplished. I wanted her to be surrounded by love and good care, and we got that. And I always felt like all I could do for her to improve, she was in a lot of pain for many years, and all I could do was be there for her. And so I got to be there, in a very real, present way.
Gosh, yeah.
And we had some moments, I didn't ever feel like, oh, I have to discuss this or discuss that before mom passes because I have, we have unfinished business. I didn't feel like that at all. And we had some pretty sweet, wonderful moments.
Oh, that's nice. That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Why I'm mentioning this, because it's it's only been a month, is the amazing sign that you got from her. Could you tell us what that sign was?
Yeah, actually, I tell you a story before that, because it was right before she passed, and I don't think you know this story. I was driving home we live an hour out of town. It's a long drive. My partner and I were coming home. She was sleeping, and I was amusing myself, started singing a song under my breath, which is a song I used in a performance I just recently did and had shared with my mom. and I was singing The Impossible Dream. And I started thinking how that actually applied to my mom a lot and her own childhood and growing up in a way that my story also kind of related to myself. Anyway, my mom was a professional ballet dancer before she got married and had kids. She toured with the Corps de Ballet of the New York City Opera Company and with Joffrey Ballet. And I got to see her dance later on when she was getting her master's degree in education. Anyway, so I'm singing this song, and all of a sudden I'm having this like vision in front of me while I'm also watching the road carefully because, windy road. But I'm seeing her on the stage in like a leotard and an outfit that somewhere I have a photo of her in this particular outfit. And this whole piece, as I'm singing, is being choreographed on stage.
Wow.
And I don't know, am I choreographing for her? Is she choreographing? Are we it just all was so smooth and so intense and so beautiful. And it's like we were one being doing this. And she was home unconscious. This was on a Saturday and she passed on Tuesday.
Oh, honey.
And so
wow.
It was just this incredible connectedness,
Wow.
and one of the pieces in there was that first awareness that I had that we really even more alike in our nature, in who we were and how we grew up, in our hearts than I even realized. And it just blew me away to have that. I can't even, convey the magic of that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so then she passed shortly after that. I did get my brothers and a couple of her grandsons here to be here before she was gone. That was a blessing. It was maybe about a week after she passed. I took my partner to go to the dentist, and I'm biding my time, going to a thrift store and roaming around, and then go get her. And then thought, we're going to just go home. She said, I really want to go to the thrift store. And there was something in there that I thought she should see. So I took her back to the same place that I had just been. And as she
having a little bit of a freezing problem. She'll be on in a minute. Miché.
that, and I see a silver pin that I made in 1989. And I've been a jeweler for a lot of years. I don't
She'll be back. Hang in there.
sold this for in the 1989. But anyway, so I mentioned, I told the cashier, I was like, I made that, I made that 30 years ago, whatever. Said, I think I ought to get a discount because I made it in the first place. So she gave me 20% off.
Oh my goodness.
And, Lynn finished up her transaction, whatever. We walked out of the store. And as soon as I got out, I just had such a strong presence. And I was like, if my mom was here, she would say, well, that's a sure sign that you're supposed to still be making jewelry.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, right.
And then my stepdad, who was also in his own level of jewelry business and passed many years ago, was like right with her and just, nodded in agreement. And, she and I had talked about that, and I actually was just setting my studio up again after the fire. So it's been an issue about making jewelry, not making jewelry. And it just like that the pin was there and she was there and the timing and everything. It was another just amazing moment.
Wow.
So I feel her around me.
It'll come.
sign, maybe we could have something like a little softer too, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel her. We have discussions. I told her something the other day and she started cracking up, and
Oh,
I,
how
I
cool.
just,
Oh, nice.
I just believe it all, and I feel it. And another amazing story, not from me, but one of the women who was mom's caregiver had brought her daughter to visit a few times, 6-year-old daughter. And at 4 a.m, the little girl wakes her mom up and says, "I had a bad dream." And so mom asked her, what was it? And she said, usually she doesn't remember what her dreams are, but I ask, and we take her back to bed. But this time she said that Jeannie, my mom, she saw my mom, and Jeannie said to tell everybody that she's very sad and she's very happy.
Oh, oh,
And my mom passed away like 4 or 5 hours after that.
oh my
And I
goodness.
just told, like, yes,
Oh, wow.
right. And that this little girl got to be validated for that,
Mhm.
right? I mean, how many stories have you heard about people maybe our age or whatever, that when we
Yeah.
were little and saying what we knew, this didn't
And
happen
then,
to me, but
yeah,
they got smacked, they got told never to speak about that again, they got, we're just
yeah.
ignoring. And so here's this little girl, and we're like thanking her for being this wonderful
Oh,
messenger,
how
right? For
nice.
being open
Yeah,
and receiving this
yeah,
from my
yeah.
mom. That was
Oh,
precious.
yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness, it's wonderful stories. And I'm so sorry for your loss. And losing a parent is one of the huge steps in life, big thing. But you're sharing this, and it's helping a lot of people to hear this story too, to,
Right.
to hear the connection.
Yeah. I mean, I miss her in the everyday world,
Yeah, yeah.
and she came in the fall, had to deal with the winter, and now things are just starting to bud. And so I'm like, you were supposed to see this, you were supposed to plant things together and whatever. And, on some level, I'm sure she's watching.
No,
Um,
she is. She'll be planting with you. Just see
yeah,
how that garden's gonna just poof right up, and
right.
it'll be
I
her.
believe it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I just want to remind everyone, now this jewelry, do you still have stuff online about the jewelry?
Yeah, I do. I haven't been making any for a while, but actually on Facebook, I think it's made by Miché. If you
Yeah,
look that up.
photos. Yeah, it's face HTTPS
Well,
Facebook made by
yeah,
Miche,
right. Yeah. And
MICHE photos.
yeah, let's see, made by Miché. Is it there?
Yeah, I was kind of scrolling through it, and
Yeah.
I'll put
Okay.
it
Yeah.
up on
So
the Facebook afterwards to all these
okay,
links.
yeah. So yeah, I've been making jewelry since I was a teenager. And just short story about that is when I was a kid, girls weren't allowed to be in like machine shop. And I even went to an experimental high school that he also had an auto shop, and they wouldn't let
Mm,
me in that either. And the machine shop guy
mm.
started teaching himself jewelry making to create a program. And that was as close as I could get to tools, and torches and files and hammers and things. I didn't care about jewelry, I was a tomboy, I was a little baby butch, and I didn't really see that. But okay, if you're gonna let me play with tools. And so I did that, and then it stuck, and I've been making jewelry ever since. I spent
Oh, good.
25 or more years focusing mostly on like custom work and wedding rings, commitment rings, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And
You have
so
some beautiful pieces up on
yeah,
that Facebook page. I was
yeah.
entranced.
And I
Yeah.
didn't have inventory because I make everything to order, but all my
Mhm.
tools and gold and gemstones and whatever, stock that I had burned up in the fire. I
Oh,
was able to
so
grab a couple of things before we left. And so I've been rebuilding. I got a grant and some other help, and then little by little adding my tools and outfitting, because I do everything in the jewelry making. I mean, I make my own wax models, I do my own casting,
wow.
fabricating, and
Wow.
whatever. So I'm looking forward to doing that again.
I bet. I bet. That's great. And I also
Right?
want to, let's go back, making our way back
Yeah.
to the Facebook
Oh,
page
yeah.
of Spoon Benders Cafe. And
Yeah.
that's a
Right.
tremendous message, just a tremendous message of changing the world one spoon at a time. What's
Yeah.
that about?
Right. So, I mean, you said in the intro, like, can you make a difference with a spoon? And well, it kind of depends what you do with that spoon. And I learned to spoon bend, I don't know, it must be about 18 years ago by now or something. I was listening to one of the very few, paranormal woo-woo stations that there were out back then before, Blog Talk and all of that. And Nicole Whitney from News for the Soul had she had a little kit to learn how to bend spoons, and that was part of how she was supporting the radio. And it just, really, especially since I was a jeweler and I was bending metal, I thought, this is for me, and I tried it out and it worked. And then I tried to show other people and it didn't work. So I just sort of left it alone. So maybe 8 years after that, I was teaching a psychic skill course, and I thought, what should I do with them today? I didn't know, and what popped in was spoons. So I went and I grabbed some spoons, and we all, not all of us, most of us bent our spoons. And I saw in their faces that they got like what that really meant, because you're taking a spoon. Now, when I teach it, unlike, say, Uri Geller, who's, teaching you to like look at the spoon and have it just flop over, I'm teaching people to use their hands, but we're starting with the spoon that's too hard to bend with just your hands. And so this small group of people that I first taught, I could see the light bulbs go off, that the difference that it made, that something that they couldn't do in one moment. And then just, literally 15, 20 minutes later, they were bending a spoon. And it was because I just sort of took people through a little bit of a mind shift and a little bit of, look at what you say to yourself and stop saying it, right? All the ways that we say, I can't do this, or this is impossible, or it's ridiculous, or it's too hard, or you can do it, but I can't do it. And just quieting all of that, just even setting it aside and thinking like, what if this is possible? And then just kind of allowing something else to happen, not forcing, not being like, you don't have to know what's going to happen next. You're just like, I wonder. And then when I've taught hundreds of people by now, and I would say in general, at least 90% of the people in my workshops bend one or more spoons during that hour time. And the youngest, I think, so far was 7. And when I was first beginning, the oldest was my mom at 80. And I'm still looking for the photo I have of her holding her spoon, bent in half with arthritic hands. And,
Wow.
it's amazing. You just get out of your way. And that's really all it takes. And so like, that is my message that I taken around with the spoons is we are so much more powerful, and everything is energy, and our thoughts are energetic. Our intentions are energetic. The spoon is energetic, and we can interact in a whole different way with stuff, and certainly with ourselves and our whole life. So yeah, that's my plan to, change the world, empower the world, let's say.
Empower the world. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One spoon at a time. Yeah.
So I been trying to bend spoons for a really long time, and I went to a couple classes and it was like, oh, well, and then I went to a IRVA conference, and they were, oh, we're going to bend spoons. And I was like, I couldn't do it. And this one woman started to spread her energy everywhere. And then the spoon bent, and my spoon bent. And I'm like, oh, but I never felt like I had done it until I met you. And we sat on Zoom with a bunch of people, and you were talking about self-love and so, and what, I mean, do you remember? I'm sure you do the same thing with everybody, but do you remember that spiel?
Yeah. It's basically, we all have this inner critic that we are or are not even aware of. And it's usually running, telling us what we can't do and our limitations and whatever. So it was really about setting that aside and to allow ourselves, to, like, I believe that we are these divine beings in human suits. We came here to have an experience. We're already perfect. We brought perfect in, but because we're having experience now, we're having imperfection, because if it was perfect, we wouldn't get to have the experience, right? So to, just acknowledge that we're okay, and that we have everything we need. It's like, you don't have to have been meditating for 3 years, or you don't have to be a vegan, or you don't have to go sit on a mountain in order to do something like this, that we all have the capacity to step into this. And you can't do this stuff, or my experience is, if you're telling yourself, negative, shitty stuff about yourself, that is not the place from which you bend a spoon. It's got to at least be neutral, if not positive. And also to be willing to let go of the outcome, right? So that's the other thing we feel like we.
In there, guys, she's coming back. We're talking all the way across the country, so I'm sure stuff's going to happen. She'll be right back. And I have my spoon in case. Let's see if I can bend it. Hope so. Kind of multitasking right now, so I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do. I want to remind you that Everything is Energy is an app in the Apple Store right now, and feel free to go find it. Miché,
Yeah,
you
where
back?
did I was like, you're not moving, but it was really me. Yeah.
So yeah, you were just talking about the mindset and changing your mindset and
Right. And willing to
willing.
the outcome. Right. And I was talking about how we tend to struggle, right? No pain, no gain. And you want to get something done, the bigger thing it is, the harder you got to work and knuckle down and all of that. And the thing with spoon bending is, like, the more you let go and relax, the more easily.
Right. Yeah.
It's the opposite of what we're taught, the mechanics of it.
Right.
And so, why I keep teaching it is for people to have this experience, very visceral. It's right in your hands. And then it's like, it's what people say about the law of attraction or setting an intention. But usually the path between what you're setting your attention on and having some progress is so circuitous that you can't track it. Right. And the thing with bending a spoon is, you say, okay, here's a spoon. I got a fork handy that is, pretty thick. I cannot bend it. I can't even bend this puppy a little bit.
Right.
And so, we start with something that is too hard. And then can be so simple, and the first time it can take, a little while. And the hardest thing is to get out of your own way, to find that place, that little bit of inner quiet, so sometimes I'll walk people through a meditation or a visualization of energy coming down into your body, down your arms, into your hands, and, creating a circuit between your hands and the spoon or the fork. And to keep that critical mind off to the side, right? I also, chatter a lot, tell jokes and stuff when I'm teaching, because I'm trying to occupy that judgmental, critical part of your mind. Because that's the one that keeps narrowing things down, and removing possibilities and all of that. And it's the right brain, it's our heart space that can do all the magic stuff. Right. So let's see what we can do. So I was saying, you got to let go of the outcome, which for me means, even though I teach this, taught it to hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds of spoons, who knows? It may or may not go, and I need to be okay with that, which is also for me where the self-love comes in a lot, because I did not grow up with a lot of self-love. I grew up with a lot of negativity, not from other people, just within myself, really hard on myself, really down on myself, angry at myself all the time, saying things to myself I would never say to another person.
Yeah, I think we all do it, don't we, Miché? We all.
Yeah. And so this is about loving myself and accepting myself and being okay. What I was saying before about, like, perfect beings coming in, having an imperfect experience. So it means if something doesn't go right, that's right. There's nothing wrong with something not going right, because we're here to try things out. And when you can really come from that place, then doing something like trying to bend a spoon, on a show and not be able to, it's like, Okay.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, we're
You know,
talking about it, and you said sometimes it takes a while.
yeah,
And I just want to remind people, everything is energy is in that app. You have don't you have a five?
yeah. Right. So everything is energy, and it's available right now in the Apple Store, and it will be available in a couple of days, hopefully, in the Google Play Store. And when you go in there, the app is free. And then this is also free. I did a 5-day, instead of calling it a challenge, because aren't we already challenged enough? I called it a 5-day manifestival. And for 5 days, I taught about different things about beliefs and mindset. And I took people through some energy activations and stuff. And on Wednesday of that Monday to Friday, I taught people how to bend spoons. So I was hoping to have a live.
Little frozen, but go on the app, and what she's going to tell us in 2 seconds is that all the stuff there to bend it that you need to bend a spoon is there. So if you don't do it now, get that app and
Okay, get the app
get the app.
and go to the 5-day manifestival. It is free, and check out the 3rd day and bring some spoons and bring some
Yes.
spoons. Go to Goodwill, go to St. Vinny's, go to thrift store, get some spoons for, 50 cents or whatever, and get more than one, because here's the other thing I discovered in this last year. When you have several, because people, when they're doing this and you bend one, you kind of want to bend other ones too. You want to see, did that really happen? And the other thing that I learned from somebody else is, if they don't all want to bend, or they don't all want to bend at
Really?
the moment. Yes. And so it's been just mind-boggling to me. You have, 3 silverware, and I could say, to the fork, do you want to bend? And I feel like the fork is like, yeah, not so much. Okay, I'm gonna leave it to the side for a moment. Now I got these, right? Do you want to bend? Yeah, this one wants to bend. This one could go either way. So I'm gonna set that one aside. And this one also, I mean, it's not like I'm switching out for some, easy one. It's also something that I cannot bend.
Mhm.
But everything is energy, and energy has intelligence, right? And so what if you were to interact,
Right.
with, whatever, there have been some times in this last months while mom has been here where I've been like on the phone with my brothers, and usually it's something like difficult going on. And all of a sudden my phone will just go dead, not like just freeze,
Oh.
but like just go out of service for like
Yeah.
20 minutes. And I'll just like, I guess that conversation was over, just sort of going with what arises. And so to be able to, or something is glitchy, and you can say, is this a good time? Like, ask your laptop, is this a good time to download, the video? Like, maybe it is, maybe it's not. And
Yeah, it's a good point.
just see
Yeah.
what happens,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, then and much more potently, to be checking with people, right? Is this a good time? Is this a good time to have this conversation? Is this a good time
Right.
for us to meet? Anyway, okay, so I've chosen a spoon that I believe said it was, willing and able. And I'm just sort of blowing out, any busyness and any judgmental brain, and just wondering, what's possible? What would it feel like? What would it be like if I were able to just in this moment just bend the spoon?
Ooh.
Right.
Awesome.
I mean, you can see definitely there was force that I used, So again, it's not the you will bend protocol. There was force, but I could not have done that. When I just showed you a moment ago, it really was that
Yeah.
stiff. And even, just approaching it just to do it, I can't unbend it like that either so easily.
Love it.
The zone.
Yeah, zoned.
And when you're first practicing, that zone it's like a window opening, and it can shut fast. As soon as you go,
Absolutely.
nope, you're out. Or like talks about like being in the vortex or out of the vortex. As soon as you're like, what? You're out of the vortex, right? You got to be like present and be like, okay. Just open and neutral.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I have my experience with it is I was using spoon bending to test how well I was connecting to that energy, to the, like, it's the vortex or to spirit, how well was I connecting? And then the days that I was connecting well, there went the spoon, and I videotaped myself doing one. And I went on Amazon and got a huge box of
Yeah.
spoons. I still have a couple left. This one
Yeah.
is left. This one's not bending yet, but I think I'm 100% distracted on 1,000 other things. But
Yeah.
the just, I'm not taking it. When I teach meditation, I talk about having to do it repeatedly over and over again, because you're building the capacity.
Right.
You're building the ability to hold the energy longer and longer and longer. And I think
Right.
that's what I was trying to, all those spoons that I bent was, where am I on this? And if I couldn't bend the spoon, I'm like, need more practice. Does that make sense? But that was
Right.
my little,
Or sometimes it's about finding a different way in,
yeah, yeah,
because it's sort of getting into a zone, and there are a lot of different ways in. And for me, when I first started teaching, I was bending a lot of spoons just on my own when I wasn't teaching, and it was almost like a meditative or a mindfulness practice, and it was noticing how I felt in my body in that moment that I was able to bend, or what was going on. And so you learn stuff about yourself, where you're most powerful or where you're most potent. Like somebody, another, healer and coach, was giving her a private lesson on bending. She couldn't do it, and she couldn't do it, and was getting so frustrated. And finally she said, I'm just going to stop trying. And then she bent the spoon.
I love
So
that.
take that into your life. That's like
Yeah.
a really important piece of information, right? The next time, you're trying to do something, you're seeing a client or whatever, and you feel like you're trying, stop trying.
Stop trying.
Right. And find the ease. Other people, it was, they actually like felt it ready to bend, which was, sort of one step
Yeah.
away from ask it in the first place if it wants to bend, but a lot of people would say, I would say, okay, you just bent it. What was going on for you? And they'd say, it felt like the spoon like wanted to bend, or that it was ready to bend. Right. And so it's not this pushing, forcing thing. And, however you know yourself to be able to get into the zone or into a quiet place, like meditating first, or maybe for somebody it's, dancing or doing dishes, or, I don't know what. And it's about coming to it from a place of just being. You have an intention, you have attention that you're bringing it, but it's not that same kind of, drilling it down.
Yeah. It's relaxing, accepting. Stop trying. Just feel good. That's what I would do. Just feel good in the moment, feel connected, feel that zone. Yeah, you kind of froze again. So I'm like filling you in.
Yeah, good. I'm trying to bend the internet. It's not working.
I think there's a lot of energy running back and forth. But I just checking to see if anybody has any questions. Just what Gail said, good evening. And Lauren and Mike and Susan are here. Jan, Alani's here. So it's kind of fun seeing people poke in.
Nice.
Reminding people everything is energy, and is the app in the Apple Store right now. It's free. You can find Miché. I was killing your name.
Yeah.
How'd I do? Miché is Spoonbenders Cafe on Facebook, and also spoonbenders.com.
Spoonbenderscafe.com. Also,
Spoonbenderscafe.com. I'm sorry, spoonbenderscafe.com. Lots of cool stuff. So let's talk about that self-love thing. And it's so, I think that it's harder to love yourself than it is to bend a spoon, to be honest with you, just remembering, it's like, how do you do it? I mean, we're all self-critical, and you were really harsh on yourself as a youngster, but, and you seem to have really nailed it. What's the secret of staying there?
Well, practice, just like you were saying with the meditation, it's about practice. It's about noticing and catching stuff, right? When I started to really hear myself, really listen to what I was saying, and how uncomfortable that was, and also dealing with a lot of depression. So, I mean, it's, it's a mixture of stuff, right? But a few different things happen. One is my friend who's also on the app, I kind of invited her to share some of her work and stuff, and she channels a group called Elohim. And one of the first times I heard them talk, they said, you know, we don't really have any rules except one, and it's don't be mean to yourself.
Oh,
And, you know, I mean, I've heard people talk about, you know, self-talk and this and that, but that was like, you know, these like non-physical beings who came to, you know, help us be more ensouled and more empowered in our lives. And that's like the one rule they have is don't be mean to yourself. So I really took that to heart. And one of the first places to stop being mean to ourselves, that I think we all do, is how hard on ourselves we are in ways that we are not with our friends, or, you know, with a child or a pet. You know, we're so willing, and even unconsciously, and then even consciously willing to be so nasty to ourselves, so, you know, put down, so judgmental. And so that is a really big, because it takes up so much of our waking time, you know, it's to start chipping away at that and to start noticing that is going to make a really big difference to anybody who does that.
so just notice your thoughts, notice how you're treating yourself, and just say, whoa,
right? And to consider being at least as nice to yourself as you are to other people. You deserve it. You know, how did we come into this thinking that we don't deserve it? That, you know, you deserve it, I'll give it to you. I mean, I was always very kind and generous and loving, like, of other people. I couldn't do it for myself.
What do you suppose? I mean, why? Why not? You know,
Yeah, just,
What-
you know,
what-
internalized messages. I mean, for me, I feel like particularly for me, my part of my story was when I was only 5 or something, I somehow had it understood that I was sent here. I was supposed to save the world. I was 5 years old. Nobody explained anything. Nobody, you know, gave me instructions. I just somehow knew I was supposed to save the world. Well, you can imagine as a 5-year-old, but even as a 15 and a 25-year-old and a 35-year-old, I didn't know how to do that. You know, and I learned all these different healing modalities and help people in all these ways, but compared to save the world, none of them were close, you know, so I felt like a failure. And I was angry at myself a lot.
5 years old thinking you had to save the world, and you were mad at yourself because you hadn't done it yet.
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, so
You're good.
I'm okay now. You know, and one of the other there were like a couple of pieces that just sort of like helped shift things, you know. One was studying meditation with a couple of women who are Tibetan Buddhist lamas.
Oh, how amazing.
I studied with them for 8 years, but the first thing that you sort of learn is this was just like a calm, abiding meditation, the idea of just being present. And it wasn't to like shut off every thought you were ever going to have again. It was just to be aware. And if a thought comes up, you just bring your mind back. Like, period. It wasn't like you bring your mind back and then you say, you know, you really stink at this, and I can't believe you're sitting here trying to do, you know what I mean? Like, thing, right? It's just like you just bring it back and you do it again. And then you wander off and you notice, and you just come back and you just take another breath. And it was like another sort of permission slip, right? To just let it be how it was, instead of demanding some other performance level or whatever. There's another point, like maybe I think a lot of people, you know, in our circle anyway, probably heard a story about a Native American grandson and his grandfather, and asking about how will I know how to like choose what's going to make me be like a good person or a mean person, you know, and the grandfather talks about that you make the choice. And I just like totally sort of butchered the story.
Oh, I think it was like,
the wolf, right? Like
there's 2 wolves, the story of 2 wolves. And this little guy has this, he keeps saying, I dream about these 2 wolves, one who's really mean and I'm scared of him and he wants to eat me. And the other one who's, well, I'm butchering it, soft and cuddly and loves me. So which, and then I don't know.
It's the one you feed the most.
When you feed, that's the one that
was the punchline, or
we got there. Yes, if you feed the angry one with fear and worry, he gets stronger and stronger. If you feed the, you know, kind, warm and cuddly one, he gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah, right. And so one day I was just sitting on the couch, and in line with that story, I said to myself, like, what makes me believe that what I say to myself, in the depressed days when I'm putting myself down and being so, negative about you're never going to get out of this or
Yeah.
whatever, why would I think that that's any more true than the times when I didn't feel that way and I actually felt good about myself and could
Yeah.
see, what I was doing and, the benefit I was bringing to other people's lives and the teaching and whatever that I was doing, and just enjoying being alive. And the answer was only because I chose to believe that one as more true than the other, so, and it was probably coming up more, the angry one, the negative one, the depressed one, but it was no more true than the other. And so I had a choice. And so there was another practice to do besides paying attention to, what I was saying and trying to turn it around, was kind of being aware enough that when I started leaning in a direction of, the angry, depressed, not good enough, I could just say, whoa, and I choose to go over here. And I had to, you got to make the effort, right? You got to do it. But it got a lot easier. And I like to say, I actually once had a depression that was only like 5 minutes long.
Oh,
I noticed that sort of angry, churning voice starting to come up. And I was like, oh, you again. And
hello.
also, like, we are not our emotions. We have emotions, right? So that was the other thing, to not identify. Right? I experienced depression. I felt depression. I had depressions, whatever, but it wasn't who I was.
Right.
Because if it was truly who I was, then you couldn't be anything else.
Right. Well,
So,
I always say that our emotions, our energy and motion, they have messages that they need to deliver. So we need to take a moment and listen to them. But once they deliver that message, once we hear it, they're gone.
right.
They change into something else. That when I started thinking about it like that, my emotions were more of I'm curious about them. So what are you telling me now? Instead of like, oh my God, here you are again. But
Right.
yeah. I think this is great talk about
Yeah.
we're not our emotions. And I have to say, Lauren bent her spoon. Yay, Lauren.
Right.
Yay, Lauren.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. The critical voices used to being critical. It's like if you go to a surgeon and you say what's wrong, their solution is going to be to cut something off. If you go to a nutritionist, their solution is going to be to get you to eat something different. So if you go to critical voice, they're going to be critical. If you go to the loving, supportive one, they're going to be supportive.
Yeah.
The thing about the critical one is that part of you also knows you really well. And I find you can get some wisdom out of there. You have to separate it out from the angry, critical stuff. It's like you're saying, there's a message and like, okay, what is it? Oh, you want me to protect my heart. Like you don't want me to go on stage and you don't think can do it and whatever. You're just really telling me you're afraid we're going to get hurt. Okay, so what can I do? Right? How can I support myself? How can I get other people to support me? How can I take care of what I need and not take it as the, kind of grinding you down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, something about me. Like, I would call them a vulnerability hangover. I would do something like this, go on a call or do like a Facebook Live or something.
Yeah.
Share something vulnerable. And especially if nobody answered, I would just be like, like so raw and think I shouldn't have done that and all of that stuff, and now it's like, those are just feelings. They're just feelings.
Feelings. Yeah. They're feelings and they're trying to protect you and they're trying to, whatever they're trying to do. But I also find, sometimes you can go in that protector, that critic or whatever, saying, don't do it. And we'll have a little bit of wisdom in there. But sometimes the only thing they can do is say, but I don't want you to hurt yourself, and that's all they got. And so you have to kind of go elsewhere, other resources within yourself that says,
for sure.
Hey, I know. Somebody will raise their hand inside of yourself, say, I know what you can do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the critical stuff came from when we were really young. And, some behaviors, right, that we could see now as like saboteurs or whatever. They came in to protect us, right, at some point. And so some of it too is to say, thank you. And I'm not that one anymore. Right. I'm not at that point. I'm not in that situation. I don't need that protection. I need something else.
Yeah. That was then. This is now. We got something new now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's so, hands down, loving yourself, the biggest superpower you could ever have, because it opens the
Right.
doors to everything else. You know, it makes it, to me, it makes it feasible and possible to explore more and discover more and try things, right? Because if you know that you're going to have your back no matter what,
Mhm.
you know, it's so much easier to step out and try something. Whereas if you know, boy, if I fail, boy, am I going to be hard on myself. Like we think we worry about what other people are going to say, but that's
Oh,
not
we're
half
worse.
of, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
half of what we would say to each other, we would kill ourselves.
right. And so if
Yeah.
you can trust that you're not going to go there, you know, that if something messes up, if you're going to do the opposite and try to, you know, be kind and, you know, compassionate to yourself, it has given me so much more freedom and nerve, you know, to do stuff.
I think so. I think, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to talk myself off the ledge a couple times a day,
Mhm.
right? You know, just yeah, because I'm always trying to do something new or something that's difficult or that kind of thing. Or I'm going to reach out and call somebody that I just been avoiding for a long time, but they know that calling, you know, reaching out, no matter what I'm going to find. And if I put a lot of love into it ahead of time, sometimes it turns out better than I thought it was going to.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
you know, yeah. But yeah, I think the thing is having your own back, having your
Right.
own back. Like, yeah, we might fall, we might fail, we might do really, really well, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like keep checking in to see who's watching. But
All right.
um, so Gail was saying, is it more like we are the observer of our thoughts? And
Yeah, we are, except we identify and we think we are our thoughts. But yeah, I
mm,
mean, we are, in our essence, who we are is the awareness. You know, actually, my name Miché, I
mm.
took it from Tibetan and it means big sky mind.
Oh, I was
The
wondering where
idea
that
that
Miche
who
came
we
from. Big,
are is
yeah,
this vast, you know, as big as a sky kind of awareness.
yeah.
And weather, the storms, the clouds, and whatever are the thoughts and feelings that come through our
Mhm.
awareness. And we get attached and we, you know, cling on to them, or we run after them, or,
Yeah,
you know, whatever. We think we are them.
yeah,
But in
yeah,
essence, you know, in the big picture, we are awareness, we're consciousness having an experience, but not being the experience, right?
yeah, yeah. It's hard to remember. I mean, yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you.
Right.
And when you work with people, I see you're a mentor, you're a speaker, you're a coach. Do you do one-on-ones with people? And how does that how does that work? How would you work with somebody?
Yeah, I do. And in fact, I just had a client this morning. So different ways. When I'm doing coaching work, I don't know, I think the coaching federation would probably throw me out because I don't really believe in waiting around for people to have their own aha
Yeah,
and help them, because it's still your aha. I'm going to help you have your aha if I think there's something, you know, and then you go
yeah,
off and you have it, you know. But
absolutely. Yeah,
it's partly, you know, being psychic or intuitive, like, you know, stuff, right? Or you can see things from a different perspective. So, you know, in a coaching environment, sometimes it's helping people look at themselves differently, you know, sort of like what we're talking about, but in a more personal and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
how is that working for you kind of way. I also mix it with energy work and clearing stuff. And I think was probably about 5 years ago now. I've trained in at least 6 modalities, gotten certificates and this and that, and then just learned, you know, a lot along the way. But about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I got this download with a friend of mine I was doing energy work. I was like, all right, let's just try and play and see if something new can come. And she started channeling my healing guides.
Oh,
And so it was amazing. It was such an incredible experience. And for her, she is also a medium and she's very in touch, but she had never actually like channeled, you know. And for me, the fact that my guides, who I was familiar with, came through her, made it sort of undeniable. Because if I heard this stuff in my head, I'd be like, oh, you're just making it up, you know? And because it was coming through and it was clearly for me, and I felt them around me and with me, and basically the two of us in this process, I came out with I don't know, a model of energy work that I've been doing since, and
Wow.
have had some pretty amazing results for many people, not for everybody. Some people are like, yeah, so there's always
Oh.
some, but yeah, so that I named the cosmic attunement,
Ooh.
and it was this idea, like, if you imagine that each of us, like, came into our life here in a bubble, I guess, sort of like a womb, I guess, but like our own, but that we
Mhm.
continue with our own, like a biodome, right? That energetically is our environment. And so what I was being taught to do by several different groups of like elders and teachers and whatever through these processes was to like clear that space, and also really, like, really profound but really playful, because sometimes that space was like a spaceship, and I was like literally, like, not literally, figuratively, literally washing windows, because it's the interface between like us as a human on the planet and our non-physical self.
Right,
And
right,
so it
right.
was, like changing filters and cleaning glass so that, could better like throughput and see each other and whatever. Ancestors come in sometimes, a lot of different like channeled things. And it just was different for each person, what they received or what their experience was. But I worked on probably like 60 people now. And a very large majority of them had some like really profound shifts, from whether it was how they related to people in the world, like in a really big way, like taking shit or not taking shit. Two different women chose to leave their relationships. Three, actually, one happened 2 years later. Now I'm not selling this as a how to leave your partner, but the thing was, it wasn't that it was about leaving a partner. It was in each of those cases that these women found a strength and a alignment within themselves that allowed them to make changes that they had not been making. There have been some physical healings that happened.
Oh, nice.
So those, I tried to do that as kind of and actually in the 5-day manifestival, I talk about it. And
Oh, nice.
some people who I had worked on, some of the first people talk about what experience it was. But the last day of the manifestival was my attempt at doing something similar in a group environment.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's not the same, but I think it was pretty profound. So once again, I'm, staying on, go get the app, go check it out. And of the different offerings, check out the 5-day manifestival, because I think there's some amazing stuff happening in there.
Yeah, yeah, and I wanna, if people are finding some good stuff in that 5-day manifestival, which I definitely gonna try, can they contact you? Is it through the app, or can
Yeah,
they?
it will be through the app. When I first submitted the app to them, to like Google and Apple, the platform folks suggested like taking out things that cost money,
Mhm.
so there will be links to like book a session with me later, but
Okay,
they can contact me through there. They can contact me through
Facebook.
Facebook. And so the sort of second version, like the Cosmic 2.0, is now what I'm calling clear path sessions. And because
Okay,
it's like clearing your path. So from,
okay,
within and
and without. I think I'm gonna call it, Jay. Sounds great. Again, I wanted to say, Energy is Everything app, and then finding her on Facebook at Spoonbenders Cafe. Her website is spoonbenderscafe.com. And
yeah, right.
we're doing good. I'm so excited about this app. I think we could talk offline about what did
Yeah,
you do and what was your imagination and stuff like that. But
right.
I also I feel really excited to just recommend you to work with, if everyone needs their path being cleared, give Miché a
Mm,
call, or connect her, direct message her through Facebook. I bring people on Angelscapes podcast just because it's about soul empowerment. It's about empowering yourself to feel your soul and having your soul, really kind of come in, and you can see how awesome you are. But we need tools to do that. We need people that
right.
we can connect to. So this Miche is a wonderful connection and has a whole bag of tools that could change everything in your life. So don't be shy, people. That's what
Practice, the opportunity to practice in real time, like, and not out of a book, but with somebody who
yeah.
can give you feedback.
Yeah.
It won't be there in the app yet, but I run a membership group. And we meet and I take people through like energetic clearings and activations, and then teach on like sensing energy, how to feel energy, different intuitive things. And it's sort of a grab bag depending on who shows up and what they want or need. And it's coaching also involved. And it's like how to live from that higher place in our own awareness so that life does feel magical. Instead of feeling like a chore, it feels like this adventure.
Magic
Because
and
everything is
adventure.
an opportunity,
Absolutely.
to discover something. So it's also a great place to be. I've been running that group for 8-9 months now.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's a really safe environment for people to share what's going on.
So, and again, if you guys are interested in finding out about our group, direct message her through Facebook. And I think is that the best way to get a hold of you, the direct message?
Yeah, that, or my email is micheshines@gmail.
micheshines@gmail. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we're done, we're going to put these links into the Facebook page. And if you want to add them to Miché, and of course, this is going on a podcast, so you could see this again on YouTube, or you could listen to it on any of your podcast stations for a refresher on how to do spoon bending. And is there anything else you want to add, or before we've been talking for an hour?
I know.
It's like,
this is my life to share this, right? Having come out of my own years of dark places and figured out, how to really enjoy being here. I love talking about it. And it's so simple. I mean, it can be so simple. Like, it occurred to me the other day, like, you want to change the world, be yourself. Just be yourself and emanate that. Like, for so long, I was trying to be something else and somebody else, and that doesn't work. I came across a phrase that says, the world isn't waiting for someone like you. They're waiting for you. And if I keep trying to be somebody else, then I'm only a version sort of like myself, and certainly not like them, I have this image or this idea that, everything is like one huge big tapestry. If you're not really being yourself, being your true colors, vibrating at your own frequency, you're messing up the picture. I mean, like a paint by number thing, right? And you're supposed to be number 3, but you keep thinking that you should be some other color, and you're somewhere between like 7 and 8 and 9, and it's not going to work.
Go back to the right. Yeah, no, I totally with you. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
And it's so easy, and it can be so hard, right? Because we're not really raised or taught to like really be ourselves and really honor who we are, right? We're taught to like fit in and scoot down and all this stuff, but to be yourself is the biggest work and the biggest gift. When you're really being yourself, you are a gift to all that is. And I figured that out, like clawing, as I went, and it's just so cool. Now it's like, what? All I have to do is be myself, and be inspired. And so I'm inspired to inspire other people to be themselves.
Which we're thrilled. Absolutely. I don't know. I keep saying we're thrilled. I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
There's somebody right there saying
we're somebody back there, right? It could be my mother,
Could be thrilled, absolutely thrilled that you're talking about this stuff. You are saying your truth and bringing it out there. And I really, really appreciate you starting off with sharing with us about these wonderful things with your mother. These, of course, being a medium, when I hear these things, I know it's so helpful. And I thank you for being vulnerable and sharing those with us. It's important, so important. I'm so proud of you. I sound like a mom, but that must be your mom saying that. I am so proud of you.
Well, is she behind you or not? I mean,
I swear she's coming. But
right. And being a medium and offering that to people is so important. I mean, I respect everything that you do. Actually was just watching your thing on mind mapping before we came on, and that was awesome. So if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. Talking about how to deal with your emotions, right? And how to learn from them. And like, I only got to listen to like 10 minutes, but I feel wiser and better prepared to have emotions now. So
yeah, well, give me a call. Let's we need to talk.
right.
Well, I'm gonna say, sign off. And hopefully we'll come back. We'll think of an excuse to have you come back and talk about more things. Wealth of knowledge. And then the spoon is only one thing. I didn't spend mine yet, probably later. But thank you for coming on, Miché, and thank you everyone for listening and for showing up on Facebook to say you're here. That's always very encouraging. And I want to remind you to live in your soul power. And whatever it takes, whatever you need to learn, lots of resources here to find that soul and live in that your own creative energy. And many blessings to you all.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.